So it took me a while to actually watch Squid Game, like amongst when it was very popular, when it was coming out and everyone was watching and talking about it. I was really busy working, so I didn't really have the time to kind of consume any type of like media. I was kind of just playing video games, like playing one or two games of Valorant a night and then just going to bed and then going back to work. But finally, I had a couple of months off. Work is pretty slow during the winter time for me, so I had a moment to catch up on everything that I missed, including anime, movies, and TV shows and stuff like that. And I just recently finished watching Squid Game today, actually. I took my time with it. It took me about, well, not like my time with it. I could have finished it in like 2 days. I could have finished it yesterday, but I was watching some other stuff and doing a couple of other things. So I'll let you know when I get into spoilers. I'm going to talk about the main concept of Squid Game, but I really enjoyed my time watching this. Now, I know a lot of people have trouble with subtitles and they watch a lot of things English dub. That includes anime. And since I do watch a lot of anime, I'm already used to subtitles. So watching it in the original language and having subtitles for me wasn't really an issue, or really wasn't a problem. And as an anime watcher and watching other foreign films and TV series, that there is the case where a lot of dialogue is mistranslated or just is not able to translate properly into a series or a movie in a different language compared like going back to English, because different things will have different meanings, so it's kind of hard to like translate certain stuff, which makes sense. But overall, I don't think that it was a bad translation whenever reading the subtitles. Of course, there were some things that were probably missaid. If like you know someone who talks both languages and understands them, they probably misinterpret certain things, or certain things were not written properly. But overall, I think it was done pretty well. And you kind of understand the whole premise, and you understand a little bit in a lot of the characters' personalities, right? Some of them you don't really get too much of a backstory, which like that lady that was kind of crazy and trying to like sort of survive. You don't really get too much of her backstory whatsoever, as much as you do with the other characters in this series. But honestly, there wasn't really any characters that I disliked. I think that they all had their unique own personalities that you can kind of see out there in the real world, right? Like some people are super like out there. Some people have a more introvert personality, just different types of personas that were in this series. And you have like everyone who's basically in this game is basically struggling out in the real world. So they do have things to lose, but in a way they have nothing to lose, if that makes any sense, at least financially, right? Because they're all in really big debt, where they owe people money and stuff like that. And it's kind of hard to get out of the struggle that they're sort of in, because they're in so deep that it's going to take many years to even get out. And when it comes to certain things, if you've ever been in financial struggles with anything, for some people, it may be a little bit easier to get out. For others, it may not be so easy. It's all a variable of different things, depending on how much you're struggling and depending on your circumstances, right? Because I've seen people say that, oh, why would you play this game even if you were in major debt? It's like, go out in the real world and just make, money, even if it takes 10 years, 20 years. But the problem with that is, in a lot of this, like especially this series, some of the characters have like family members that are counting on them, right? And time waits for no one. So even if you be successful or manage to get like a decent job, any of these characters, right? Things are not always going to work out the way that you plan, especially like everyone has a different type of mindset. Some people are more creative than others. Some people are able to solve certain problems better than others. Some people are able to learn certain things faster than others. And sadly, time doesn't wait for anyone or everyone, right? Like you have in this series, people and their families that are counting on them, or that are struggling, or are kind of like collateral damage. And it's kind of like me. If I was struggling and I had people that I had to take care of, like kids or parents or grandparents, it's like time may wait for me because I'm younger than them, but time is not going to wait for them. So like if someone's majorly sick, if someone's aging or whatever, and they need proper care, there's not going to be 5 years to wait in order for them to get healthy. Like I have to find a way to be successful sooner rather than later, simply because there's a difference between wanting to be successful for myself, which I have plenty of time, And then there's a difference between trying to be successful to protect the people who are counting on you, or the people that you care about that are way older than you, right? So that's kind of like what it shows in this series, that, they have people that are kind of dependent on them, or people that they want to look out for. And some of them are just in major debt, and some of them are actually assholes, right? So you got a little bit of different personalities in this series. But I was reading a lot around before I even watched the series of like people saying, oh, why would people even join this game? They can just do this to make money and all that. And at first I wasn't understanding what they were talking about until I finally watched the series. So yeah, you have a lot of people who are, let's just say, they're in major debt. And, with this getting rich super fast, the consequences are that basically only one person is going to be able to make it out alive. And they're playing these games that they have played since they were little kids, or when they were little kids, that a lot of people have probably forgotten since they've grown up because they haven't played them. And you're wondering who's like behind it all, who's in charge of it, why is this happening? Like, what is the whole purpose of this, right? Like, it seems like a fucked up thing to do, which it really kind of is in a sense, but no one can sort of force them to come into the games. But it's like when people are trying to survive and you have no other options, or it feels like you don't have no other options. And this is where the time comes into factor, because it's like there's different options. The problem is when you're running out of time, people will do anything in a sense to try to survive, right? And so that's why they kind of join these games, because knowing that this is a lot of money that almost no one is probably ever going to be able to make in their lifetime, regardless of how hard or how smart that they work. And the chances of all of them making them are really slim, but the chances are even lower by playing this game dramatically decreased, because only one is going to be able to survive. As far as that I was able to tell, like, I think only one person can legitimately actually win when it comes to playing these games. So they played like these games that they used to know when they were a kid, and little do they know what's actually going to happen if they get eliminated. You literally get eliminated, and you basically die. Like, they kill you if you don't play by the rules, if you get disqualified, eliminated, cheating, whatever they find that is against the rules that they have kind of provided, they will kill you. So you do have an option to kind of opt out if majority of the people want to opt out. So yeah, there's that. That's basically the premise of this series. I don't think I've ever seen a show like this besides, I guess I would say, Hunger Games, the Battle Royale movie. I think it was a movie, which is a different kind of a concept, right? They kind of get a little bit of fame and glory, and in some of these movies, they sort of get to live with the rich top of society. So this is kind of along those premises as to one person is able to change their life around and be able to keep all that money that they made, right? So we've seen this before, just in a different type of concept where people are actually killing each other, which people do in this series. They kill each other, but the main point is you're playing games against someone else. But if you end up beating them and they end up losing, then they end up dying. So kind of like the consequence of your own actions affects someone else negatively, because, they weren't able to accomplish that certain game. And even by its nature of the game, only one person is going to be able to win at the very end, because that's the whole purpose of Squid Games. So before I get into spoilers, overall, I thought it was pretty good. It was enjoyable. I had a good time watching it. I mean, I don't know what else they could do, if there is, or if there can be a season 2. Like I said, I'm not going to get into spoilers until, after I'll let you know when I'm getting into it, because I'm getting pretty close. But yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't watched it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people watched it already, or everyone watched it, whoever was interested in watching it. Unless you're like me, you kind of didn't have any time to watch it and now you're currently catching up. Definitely check it out. I thought it was a really good series, and if they do end up making a season 2, I hope that it's as good and they don't overstep their boundaries or whatever, because, sometimes where they're trying to keep a series alive because of how popular it is, it just goes downhill sometimes. So we'll see what kind of ideas and concept that they'll come up with, if they'll take some ideas from the fans that have kind of come up with some fan theories that they thought could actually continue the series the way that it ended from the first season. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, check out the series. And the last thing I'll say is, I thought the music was pretty good. It was like really creepy. You know how you hear kids' songs in horror movies, and it's like it just makes it that much scarier. It kind of does that in this series. So yeah, and usually, I mean, the graphics or whatever they use for blood, it doesn't look like super realistic and stuff like that, but it doesn't look super fake either, right? So the main premise of this in general is kind of the concept and the story of it. And I thought the characters were really well, like they were all really good at acting. At least it seemed like when they were afraid, when they were angry at each other, whenever they were arguing, whenever they're really struggling to survive. And then you can see their struggles of how the things kind of affect them during the games and how they're affected in their like personal lives and why they chose to want to play the games and stuff like that. The way that it did certain characters, I do wish that more characters, well, certain characters, I wish that they had a little bit more background and a little bit more understanding. Like the best friend that kind of was supposed to be the smartest in the town where he lived, I wish they would have got a little bit deeper into his story. And then also that lady that seemed to be crazy, I wish they would have gone a little bit more in depth with her character as well, because I actually really liked her. I thought she was pretty cool and she was trying to do whatever it takes to survive. But there are other characters as well that they don't really get too in depth, and it's understandable because of how little episodes there are for the series. But overall, I thought it did pretty well. I thought the music was pretty good. The story, the acting was really good. And yeah, it was good where it needed to be. I love the color scheme of how they used the letters in the costumes, right? It was kind of like a reddish pinkish. Sometimes they use like pinkish, like in the letters. I think it was pink. I guess it depends, right? Some pictures I see that it's red, but you know, I'm talking about the letters. Like the letters, I think they're pinkish. They look pink for me, so whatever. Anyways, regardless, I love the overall designs, how they have like the circle and the square and the triangle, and it kind of tells you who's a higher up compared to like everyone else. But anyways, yeah, give it a watch and hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. Now I'm going to get into the spoiler parts of the series. Not too many, but I mean, if you haven't watched it, there's no point in listening on. So yeah. Now, none of these games I've ever heard of. I guess these are all games from their childhoods, right? Like even the Squid Game is actually a game and I didn't even know. But that was like kind of the final episode, well, the final game. And none of these games, except for Tug of War, which I think was the only one that I understood the concept of. I guess the glass one, maybe. But then again, I don't see a scenario where people have actually played that type of game. I've seen it in some anime series. I forgot which one it was that they did some kind of like glass thing where they were jumping in. It was tempered glass and one was fake. Maybe it's been done before. I'm not sure. But overall, I did love the whole arc of the policeman. I want to know more about the brother. Like, see, that's another thing that I kind of wish that they got into. Like, how did the brother become to be that? You know, like get into that when his police officer brother was trying to look for him. And that overall story kind of broke my heart because it's like once he realized that it was his brother, I didn't realize it at first until like he was trying to catch up to him. And I was like, why is he letting him live? Why is he doing all this? And then I started like kind of putting it together and like, no way, that's his brother. And then when you start getting like to the scene where they're like standing right next to each other, I'm like, oh, he's going to take his mask off. They're going to talk. And man, I can't believe he killed him. Like, I just wanted to know how he got to that point. What happened? Why did he kill him? Was he forced to get into that situation? And it just overall sucked. And I really admired the acting here because every character here was going through like a certain struggle in their personal lives. And it really affected them and damaged them whenever they got into the games and they were seeing other people die. They were kind of like traumatized by it, right? It's like sort of hard to focus on playing the game that you're supposed to win while you're hearing gunshots and you're seeing other people dying around you. It's like not only does it put a lot of pressure on you to make sure that you make the right choices while you're playing this game and not mess up, or else you're going to be one of those dead bodies, but you're also timed. You know, there's a timer going against you. And then your hands are shaking, you're sweating, like everything, the whole thing is just making it harder to play a simple kids game. And I think that's what the rich people of who were funding this sort of game were a part of, that they knew realistically they were able to watch this from home. They were able to enjoy this thing that is entertaining for them because like of how suspenseful it is, what people would do to survive, like all the stuff that people were trying to like kind of use one another and lie to one another, manipulate one another. So it was just all kinds of crazy. I still don't know who's actually in charge or behind this. At first, I thought it was kind of the old man. And I did not expect that with the old man. It reminded me of Saw whenever Saw was like that dead old man, and Saw was actually the one behind everything. It turns out that this old man was kind of behind everything, but not really, because the games are still going on, which shows in the final episode. So I don't really know who's actually in charge, or if it's just kind of like a group of people. I assume that the people who were there to watch in person were just kind of like investors that were betting their money to see who was going to win. It's kind of like a popular game, like horse betting or horse racing and like rooster fighting or whatever other of these other stuff that are illegal that people do. And the main reason why they did this, which is really fucked up, but understandable at the same time, but I don't think it's morally acceptable or should be morally acceptable at all, is that basically they were bored, right? Like they have so much money that they really couldn't find any enjoyment in their life. Like they can buy anything, have anything, do anything with the amount of money that they have, but they see no purpose in that, no enjoyment in that, right? So they decided to do this kind of a game in order to kind of fulfill their boredom and, I don't know, like just have fun in a sense, watching other people suffer for their own enjoyment. They seen him as like low people that had no value, I guess, in a sense. They even call them like horse in some of the episodes. So it's kind of like you're betting against a horse to see who's going to be the last one to survive and win. And that's a really fucked up way to look at it. And that's kind of how they portrayed it in this series, that, the higher class of certain people, not everyone, right? That they were willing to do that in order to fulfill their needs. And you find out that the old man didn't really find pleasure in trying to watch that. At least he thought it would be more exciting if he joined the game. So that's why he sort of joined into the game to take part of the action, front row seat, instead of just watching it, right? And he was kind of able to relive a childhood memory that he used to when he was a kid in his own fucked up way, right? Like it took all of this for him to able to have fun at the expense of other people suffering. So that's why he kind of ended up letting the other guy live that he was playing marbles with, because he was happy that he was able to relive his childhood and kind of remember the good old days when he always used to play games and actually have a good time. Because, with everyone, I think life does carry a lot of burden. We go through a lot of stuff in general, and eventually everything kind of like just piles on top of one another, and your back kind of gets super weighed down by everything that's going on, depending on your moral system, your belief system, the way that you see the world, the things that are happening around the world, and just different things in general kind of tends to put a lot of weight on you, a lot of stress on you. And yeah, I mean, with these people, I don't know, because it's going to be different for everyone. But like I said, they were like super wealthy. So it sort of begs the question as to how far were they willing to go? Obviously this far, but what happens after they get bored of these type of Squid games, or, putting people's lives against one another like this? Now, a lot of things that I was seeing that I talked about earlier is that people said I wouldn't play this game because it's like I would just take my chances out in the real world. But in all reality, it depends on how far gone your life is, right? Because like I said, time is something that you're not able to get back. And if, your grandma's sick, or your mom is sick or something, just like it showed in this episode, and his mom ended up dying even before he was able to manage to play and finish the game. It's like, imagine if you would have actually tried to do that in real life and try to be successful in a couple of days. It's not possible. But with these Squid games, he was able to do it in less than a week. So it's kind of like, well, I could take my chance here because I really need the money, or I can wait 10 years until I become successful. And sometimes people don't have those options. Everyone has a different circumstance. Everybody has a different living situation, different types of problems. And some people need money faster than others, right? A lot of people seem to think that people want to get rich because they just want money for themselves to be able to live this luxurious life. Not everyone's like that. And even if someone is like that, there's nothing like wrong with that. But someone who wants to live that type of life can take a little bit longer as long as they live a normal, healthy life, right? But someone who wants money because they want to take care of the people that they love, they don't have that much time, because the people that they love may be passing on in a few years, right? It's like you don't have limited amount of time. unlimited amount of time. Like, you run out instantly. So I can understand why people were so desperate to kind of join in these games, even though the percentage of only one person winning were so low that, yeah, it kind of sucked. At least it compensated other, like, I would imagine, like, for instance, they said whenever they took a vote, no one will win the money, but the people who have died, it would go to their family and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. But the people who were already playing in there, they basically get nothing, which is kind of shitty. And I thought if you win, it'd probably be better if you just continue the games, one person wins, you have so much money that from winning that you could just give it to all the other families that ended up dying and help them, right? Anonymously. And, you know, just like at the end, he helped that kid. He was helping like little people here and there, but he kind of helped the mom as well by giving her a lot of money. But he could have enough money to help everyone who died in the games and their families, and still have plenty enough to help even more people, and to have some for himself to just live a comfortable life, right? Like, that's all he really had to do, instead of like quitting the games like he wanted to do with his friend and go home empty-handed. Everyone else would get paid except for them two. When if he could win, he could pay everyone else. But I understand why he wanted to, right? He didn't want to see his childhood friend ended up dying for something that he felt was meaningless, right? A lot of people are doing a lot of things in order to succeed. But at that point, from my personal perspective, I thought that it was kind of a waste to throw it all away, right? Like, you've already gone that far, you might as well finish. Maybe I would have a different perspective if I was in that situation when it was me and a childhood friend that I, didn't really talk to anymore, but maybe I would change my mind. I don't know. It's kind of harder to say when you're not into something like right there in the moment, right? Like, I can only speak right now, and I think that I would have just kept continuing it, because even if it was like, what's done is done already, right? If we didn't stop it at the first time like they did and they decided to come back, well, then why stop it now when so many people have already died? That's just kind of the way that I see it. So yeah, I don't know. It was really scary what a lot of people were willing to do for money. And, there was just a variety of different types of people. Like, there was couples there. There was old people there, girls, guys. And they were all there for different reasons, I mean, all of them were basically in debt, at least from what I understood. But, they all wanted to win for a different reason, whether it was to pay off their debts, to win more money for their family, to win more money for themselves. And yeah, now the way that it ended, I'm not sure how to interpret the ending, because he just kind of figured out that another game was starting, and he kind of left the plane because he was going to go see his daughter in America, but he ended up not going because he made the call to the games, and they basically told him, get on that plane, don't worry about anything, and whatever, you stay out of it. So I don't know what he's planning to do, like play again, try to find out try to ruin the organization somehow. Like, it seems a little bit hard. I mean, he does have the resources now, he has a lot of money, he could just pay people and do all this. But if he was going to do that, it would be better if he did it undercover instead of letting them know that he was probably going to do that, because now they're watching him and they're onto him. Personally, I would have just lived out my life. I already have the money. Fuck it. Whatever. I'm going to do whatever I can, protect my family, help my daughter, and help other people around me generously as best as I can. And yeah, because at the end of the day, like, there are a lot of people that are suffering, and if I could do something about it, why not do what I can on my part? But also, you can see from his view, he's trying to stop from other people dying. And I don't know, some people, it's kind of like, you can either be in the real world and kind of suffer, which is how they, like, the mentality that they were trying to give you to think of. It's like, you can either be in the real world struggling every single day, or you can join these games and you die and you be put out of that misery of suffering, or you could win and you make basically all the money that you could ever possibly want. And they gave them that choice in a sense. Now, if a lot of people knew that they had like a chance to be successful in life, I don't think a lot of people would have did these games, but they purposely picked people who knew they had no way to get out of the bottom from where they were stuck at in life. And those are the people that are playing in this game, you know, whether they owe people a certain amount of money. If they didn't pay them back, they were going to get killed. Whether their grandma, their mom's siblings were dying or they needed protection from something. Like, that's where time comes in, right? Like, time is not unlimited. So they needed the money now. So either they die or they try to get money as fast as they can, which is understandable from that perspective. Like I said, other people were disagreeing with that, but you know, there's many different ways to see this. But overall, I don't know what direction they're going to go with if they do a season 2, but hopefully it's not going to be bad. And I really love the costumes that they used and everything, like the whole square triangle and stuff like that, and the color of it and the way that they kind of like some of them are white and black, like the circle things. I don't know, it's pretty cool. I thought it was cool. I like the outfits and stuff. So I thought it was pretty neat. But anyways, that's all I really wanted to talk about. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. And hopefully season 2, if they make one, is as good as season 1 or even better, right? Like they can increase their budget, but nothing's like their budget is not going to help a story, right? So hopefully the story is well written, just like this first one was, or even better. But other than that, only time will tell, and we're just going to have to wait. So anyways, have a lovely rest of your night or day whenever you're listening. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you on the next series that I talk about. So yeah, be safe.